Today, I am excited to introduce you to a fantastic chess opening that promises great success. This relatively new and unknown variation can give you a significant advantage and plenty of winning opportunities against your opponents. But before you watch today's video explaining this opening in detail, let me share why it's highly successful. Starting with the move pawn to e4, most opponents will reply with pawn to e5. In the past, the Danish Gambit was a popular and aggressive opening where players sacrificed pawns for quick development and attacking potential. However, it was found that black could easily defend and gain an advantage with one or two extra pawns. Now, in this new variation, black can respond in different ways to maintain their advantage. One approach is to immediately give back one of the extra pawns to free up black's development and secure a comfortable position. Alternatively, even if your opponent is not well versed in opening theory, they can opt for natural moves like bishop to b4, developing the bishop and putting pressure on white's king, followed by knight development and quick castling for king safety. This opening ensures that black gets a solid position and holds the advantage after the early exchanges. It provides you with a solid foundation for the rest of the game, allowing you to confidently navigate the middle game and capitalize on your opponent's mistakes. And again, you may think that developing a quick attack against black's king is challenging due to their ability to defend it effectively. However, I've discovered a way to utilize similar ideas while preventing your opponent from escaping so easily. Here's the trick. Instead of immediately going for a gambit idea, we first play knight to f3, giving the appearance of a more classical chess approach. The knight attacks the pawn on e5, prompting black to defend with knight to c6. Now comes the shift into a strategy resembling the Danish Gambit. We play pawn to d4. Instead of the expected neutral recapture, we play pawn to c3, and when black takes our pawn on d4, we counter with bishop to c4. The idea remains the same: prioritize quick development, and then launch an attack against black's underdeveloped army and centralized king. In this position, many of your opponents will instinctively capture on b2. I'll show you what to do if they don't, but for now, assume they do. After bishop takes b2, the situation becomes trickier for black. Playing pawn to d5 is less appealing since you can capture with your pawn and attack black's knights that are likely to come into play. By employing this approach, you create a more challenging position for black to handle. Their king will have a harder time finding safety, and your quick development will enable you to mount a strong attack against their position. Indeed, another common defensive option that most of your opponents will choose is to play bishop to b4, checking the white king. You respond with knight to c3, and black goes knight to f6, intending to castle quickly. You allow them to execute their plan and proceed to castle as well. At this point, black might feel confident with their two extra pawns and plan to develop their bishop, expecting an easy win. However, here comes the game changer: knight to d5. This move puts tremendous pressure on black's position. The knight attacks both of their knights, supported by your dark square bishop from b2, threatening to disrupt their king's pawn shield and launch a powerful attack. Additionally, it applies pressure on black's bishop on b4, making it an uncomfortable situation for them. Now, black has some challenging decisions to make. Capturing the knight on d5 might seem appealing, but you can recapture with a pawn, gaining an extra tempo and forcing black's knight to retreat. This position doesn't bode well for black either. Another way for black to deal with the pressure on their knights is to capture the pawn on e4. However, if they do, this moment becomes your triumph. The move knight takes e4 opens up opportunities for you to exploit, gaining the initiative and putting black on the defensive. In this incredible position, you'll make a strategic move by relocating your bishop to d3, which puts it on a more active diagonal. Now, your bishop not only attacks the knight, but also eyes the direction of your opponent's king. Unbelievably, by playing all natural moves, black finds themselves completely lost. The knight on f6 is under attack, and no matter what black does, they will suffer severely. If they try retreating to f6, you'll simply exchange it, forcing black to recapture with the pawn, causing devastation to their king's position. Another option for black might be g5, as their knight on g5 is defended by the queen. They may believe this will lead to a knight exchange, but you have a brilliant combo in store. The move knight to f6 delivers a check, attacking their king and the knights simultaneously. Black has no choice but to capture your knight, and then you play knight takes g5, increasing the pressure. At this moment, the game takes on a magical turn. You continue sacrificing material, playing bishop takes f7, a move reminiscent of Michael Tal or the old masters. This dazzling combination is extremely challenging for opponents to notice, except for perhaps a chess prodigy like Magnus Carlsen. The sacrifice and attacking sequence put your opponents in a difficult position, and they will struggle to find a suitable response. You now have a dangerous weapon to unleash against your old chess rivals who used to beat you. Take sweet revenge and surprise them with this brilliant tactic. Your games will become a spectacle of tactics and daring moves, leaving your opponents in awe of your chess prowess. Now, let's return to the critical position in this opening variation, where we played knight to d5, exerting pressure on black's position. We have already established that black cannot go for knight takes e4, as it leads to a devastating attack against their king. Now, let's analyze the other possible alternative for black, which is knight takes d5. You respond by capturing back with a pawn, taking advantage of the pinned knight on c6, which must retreat. Most often, black moves it back to e7. Then comes the brilliant move queen to d4, creating a simple but powerful threat of checkmate with queen takes g7, supported by your bishop. At this point, black faces considerable difficulties in finding a solid defense. Attempting to defend with pawn to f6 fails due to a tactical discovery, pawn to d6, a discovered check to the king, attacking the knight. You happily grab the knight on the next move, continuing your strong attack, which is undoubtedly waiting for you. Another move for black is knight to f5, but then you play queen to g4, maintaining your attack. Your queen attacks the knight on f5, and it can't retreat, as you would still capture the pawn on g7. Your queen and bishop jointly attack the square. If black tries something like pawn to d6 to open up their bishop's path and defend the knight, you play bishop to d3, creating a double attack. However, it's difficult for black to foresee all these variations, especially if they are unfamiliar with this opening, which is most likely the case. With bishop to d3, you attack the knight while simultaneously opening an attack against black's bishop. Their position becomes defenseless with too many weaknesses to cover simultaneously. Black's only hope might be to secure their king's position, but even that falls apart when you win the bishop for free. Moreover, the long diagonal is extremely weak for black, giving you a significant advantage. In the subsequent variations, you'll threaten moves like queen to c3, followed by jumping to h8. In essence, black is completely lost, struggling to find any meaningful defense against your strong and relentless attack. There's one more aspect you need to be aware of when offering this gambit at this point: pawn to d4, pawn to c3. Black may consider you being too greedy or risky if you continue with pawn takes b2, bishop takes b2, which puts you behind in development. In some cases, your opponents might respond with pawn to d6, transitioning into another opening called the Goring Gambit, which also offers excellent attacking opportunities. I have another video discussing the Goring Gambit, and I'll link it for you to check out. However, let me share a quick tip in this position. Playing queen to b3 is incredibly effective. This move attacks the pawn on b2, and in most cases, your opponents will play queen to e7, as it seems like the only viable move. Strangely enough, this move almost leads to black losing the game right away. You respond by simply playing knight to c3, and black's problem becomes apparent: they struggle to complete their development. Suppose black tries to play knight to f6. In that case, you castle and continue with your development, putting a lot of pressure on them. They can't develop their bishop easily, as it has to guard the pawn on e7, leaving them in a challenging position. Even if they attempt a5, it may seem like a double attack, but queen to a4 refutes it. Now, you have the advantage of a double attack, hitting the knight and the king, forcing black's knight to retreat. After this, you have various winning options at your disposal. For instance, knight to d5 attacks the queen, and if black takes the knight, you recapture with the pawn. The pinned knight cannot escape, and you can continue with rook to e1 to threaten winning the queen using the other pin. This gives you the opportunity to win any piece you want and ultimately secure the victory. With these powerful tactics and strategic advantages, your opponents will find it challenging to counter your attacks effectively. You have a strong advantage in this opening variation, and with proper execution, you can claim many decisive victories. Keep practicing and refining your skills, and you'll become a formidable force on the chessboard. Now, it's time for a puzzle. In the given position, it's white's turn, and you need to find the best move for white. Share your answers in the comments, and let's see how many of you can solve it correctly. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with future videos. Take a moment to check out the other videos appearing on your screen right now. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care and peace.